They say the moment your heart breaks, it makes no sound. But on a rainy Tuesday in Chicago, Elena Vance heard it shatter like glass. She watched her husband of 5 years, Carter, walk away without a single backward glance. He thought she was finished. He thought she was just a discarded stepping stone on his way to the top. He was wrong. Because while Carter was staring at his own reflection, he missed the moment the world shifted. He missed the midnight blue Bentley pulling up to the curb. He missed the billionaire waiting inside. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the story of how the woman who was left behind became the woman everyone, including her ex, would kill to possess. The silence in the penthouse was more violent than any scream. It was a curated silence bouncing off the Italian marble countertops and being absorbed by the plush oatmeal-colored rugs that Elena had spent 3 weeks selecting just last year. Elena Vance stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the gray slurry of Chicago rain beat against the glass. Behind her, the sound of a zipper closing echoed like a gunshot. "That's the last of it," Carter Brooks said. His voice was devoid of emotion, professional, as if he were concluding a merger meeting at Sterling & O'Connell, the law firm where he had just made junior partner. Elena turned. Carter looked immaculate. He was wearing the charcoal cashmere sweater she had bought him for his 32nd birthday. He looked handsome, successful, and entirely like a stranger. "You're really doing this on our anniversary, Carter?" Elena asked. Her voice didn't shake. She had promised herself she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of a tremor. 5 years. And you're packing a Toomey suitcase and walking out because our paths have diverged, Elena. We've been over this with the mediator. Carter sighed, checking his Rolex, a Submariner, a gift from her parents when he passed the bar. He didn't offer to give it back. My career requires a certain visibility, a certain type of partner. You're an interior designer, Elena. You want a quiet life. You want to renovate farmhouses in Wisconsin. I need to be in the room where decisions are made. It's Tiffany, isn't it? Elena said the name, tasting like ash. Carter paused, his hand on the handle of his suitcase. Tiffany Ashford understands the pressure I'm under. Her father is the managing partner, Elena. It's not just about attraction. It's about alignment. She's strategic. Strategic. He was leaving his wife for a strategy. I supported you through law school, Elena said, taking a step forward. The memories flooded her, eating instant ramen in a basement apartment on Wicker Park, so he could afford his books, proofreading his briefs at 300 a.m., holding him when he failed the bar the first time. I paid the rent for 3 years, Carter. I built this life for you. And I appreciate that, Carter said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out an envelope. He placed it on the kitchen island. I'm not leaving you destitute. The settlement is generous. The condo is paid for until the end of the month. After that, well, you're talented. You'll figure it out. He walked to the door. The clicking of his loafers on the hardwood was a countdown. Carter, she called out. He stopped, his hand on the brass knob, but he didn't turn his head. If you walk out that door, Elena said, a sudden cold clarity washing over her, don't you dare look for me when you realize that strategy isn't the same thing as loyalty. Carter chuckled, a low, dry sound. Goodbye, Elena. Good luck with the farmhouse. The door clicked shut. Elena stood frozen. The penthouse was silent again. She walked over to the envelope he had left. Inside was a check for $25,000. A generous settlement. It was insulting. It was a payoff to make her disappear so he could parade Tiffany Ashford, a woman who had never worked a day in her life, around the high society gala circuit. She walked to the window. 4 stories down, she saw him emerge from the building. A black sedan was waiting. He threw his bag in the trunk. He didn't look up at their window. He didn't pause. He got in, and the car merged into the relentless traffic of Michigan Avenue. Elena Vance didn't cry. She went to the kitchen, poured the expensive bottle of Cabernet they were supposed to share that night down the sink, and then walked to the bedroom. She pulled her own suitcase from the closet. He wanted her to be gone by the end of the month. She would be gone by midnight. The humidity in the studio apartment was stifling. The air conditioner rattled, coughing out lukewarm air that smelled vaguely of dust and old onions. Elena wiped sweat from her forehead as she bent over the drafting table. Her hands, once manicured and soft, were now rougher, stained with charcoal and marker ink. 6 months. That's how long it had been since Carter erased her. The divorce had been finalized in record time thanks to Carter's connections at Sterling and O'Connell. He had ruthlessly argued that since she was a freelancer, her contributions to the household were negligible compared to his salary. The prenup she had signed blindly at 24, believing in true love, held up. She got the $25,000, her car, a 2015 Honda, and her clothes. He kept the friends. He kept the reputation. He kept the life. Elena was currently working as a freelance junior draftsman for a mid-level architectural firm. It was humiliating work for someone who used to lead design projects, but Carter had poisoned the well. He had subtly spread rumors among their high society clients that Elena was unstable or difficult post-breakup. The phone stopped ringing. Her phone buzzed on the desk. It was Sarah Miller, the only friend who hadn't defected to Team Carter. "Elena, please tell me you're not sitting in that sweatbox working on a Friday night," Sarah's voice chirped. "I have a deadline, Sarah. The Henderson kitchen remodel," Elena muttered, shading a cabinet elevation. "Forget the Hendersons. Listen, I need a favor. A big one. And before you say no, remember I helped you move that sleeper sofa up 3 flights of stairs." Elena sighed, putting down her pen. "What is it?" "I'm catering the Vanderbilt Blackwood Charity Gala tomorrow night at the Drake Hotel. One of my lead coordinators got food poisoning. I need a body. I need someone who knows how to handle high-maintenance rich people, knows which fork is for the salad, and doesn't look like a terrified deer. I need you." Elena's stomach dropped. The Vanderbilt Blackwood Gala. It was the event of the season. The ticket price alone was $5,000. "Sarah, I can't. You know who's going to be there," Elena whispered. "Carter." "Who cares?" Sarah snapped. "Let him see you. Actually, no. He won't even see you. You'll be in the shadows managing the floor. It's $800 for the night, Elena. Cash." $800. That was her rent for the studio. Is she going to be there?" "Tiffany." "Probably. I heard they just got engaged," Sarah said, dropping the bomb casually. "Look, Elena, you can hide in your apartment and let him win, or you can come out, make some money, and realize they are just people, miserable people in expensive clothes." Elena looked around her cramped apartment, the peeling paint, the stack of unpaid bills. Carter was probably sipping scotch in a climatic-controlled wine cellar right now. "Fine," Elena said, her voice hardening. "I'll do it, but I'm wearing a mask if I have to. Uniform is all black, sleek, 6:00 p.m. sharp. Love you, mean it." Elena hung up. She walked to the tiny mirror in her bathroom. She looked tired. There were dark circles under her amber eyes, but beneath the fatigue the bone structure was still there. The fire was still there, buried under the ash. Engaged. He had replaced her in 6 months. The next evening, the Drake Hotel was a fortress of gold light and velvet ropes. The paparazzi were swarming the entrance, flashbulbs popping like lightning storms as Chicago's elite arrived in limousines. Elena entered through the service entrance. The kitchen was a chaotic symphony of clattering pans and shouting chefs. She changed into the black tailored suit Sarah had provided. It was severe, simple, and oddly flattering. She pulled her dark hair back into a tight, severe bun. "Here," Sarah said, shoving a clipboard into her hands. "You're managing the VIP sector, table 1 through 10. Keep the champagne flowing, make sure the hors d'oeuvres are hot, and if anyone asks for something off menu, just smile and say you'll check with the chef." "VIP sector," Elena panicked. "Sarah, that's where the biggest tips are. Go." Elena took a deep breath and pushed through the swinging doors into the grand ballroom. It was breathtaking. Chandeliers the size of small cars hung from the ceiling. The room smelled of expensive perfume, truffle oil, and money. Elena moved through the crowd like a phantom. She was efficient professional. She topped off glasses of Dom Perignon, directed guests to their seats, and signaled the waiters. She was invisible. Service staff always were. And then she saw them. Table 4, right in the center near the stage. Carter Brooks was laughing, his head thrown back. He looked broader, tanned, richer. Beside him sat Tiffany Ashford. She was wearing a silver sequined gown that plunged dangerously low. She was beautiful in a sharp, manufactured way. On her finger sat a diamond the size of a quail egg. Elena felt a physical blow to her chest, but she kept walking. She had a job to do. She had rent to pay. She was refilling a water glass at table 5 when she heard it. "Excuse me, miss." It was Carter's voice. Elena froze. She slowly turned around, clutching the crystal pitcher. Carter was looking at her, but his eyes were glazed with alcohol and arrogance. He didn't recognize her. Not at first. To him, she was just a waitress in a black suit. "We need another bottle of the '96 Cabernet. This one is corked," Carter said, waving a hand dismissively at the half-full bottle. Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. He didn't see his wife of 5 years. He saw a servant. "I will inform the sommelier, sir," Elena said softly. At the sound of her voice, Carter's hand froze in midair. His head snapped up. His eyes widened, locking onto hers. The recognition hit him like a slap. "Elena," he whispered. The table went silent. Tiffany looked up from her phone, squinting. "Carter, honey, who is this?" Carter's face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions, shock, then embarrassment, and finally a sneering pity. He stood up, smoothing his jacket, trying to regain control of the narrative. "Elena," he said louder this time, ensuring the surrounding tables could hear. "I didn't know you were working here." "I'm assisting the event coordinator," Elena said, her chin lifting. "Is there an issue with the wine, Mr. Brooks?" Tiffany let out a high-pitched, cruel laugh. "Oh my God, Carter, is this the ex-wife you're waiting tables now? That is so quaint." "I'm not waiting tables," Elena said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm working." "It's fine, Elena," Carter said, reaching into his wallet. He pulled out a $100 bill. "Here, for the trouble. Why don't you go take a break? It's a bit embarrassing for everyone you being here." He tried to press the bill into her hand. The humiliation was a hot liquid pouring down her spine. The people at the nearby tables, people she used to have dinner with, were staring, whispering behind their hands. Poor Elena. Look how far she's fallen. Elena looked at the money, then at Carter's smug face. "I don't want your money, Carter," she said clearly. "Don't be difficult," he hissed, leaning in. "You look pathetic. Just take it and leave." Elena's grip on the water pitcher tightened. For a second she considered pouring the ice water over his tuxedo. But that would make her the crazy ex-wife. That would give him the story he wanted. She set the pitcher down on the table with a sharp clack. "Enjoy your evening, Mr. Brooks," she said. She turned on her heel and walked away. She didn't run. She walked with a straight back, even as her vision blurred with angry tears. She pushed through the ballroom doors, past the kitchen, and out the side exit into the alleyway. It was raining again. Of course it was raining. Elena leaned against the brick wall of the hotel, gasping for air. She had stood up to him, but she felt hollowed out. She was standing in an alley in a borrowed suit while he was inside celebrating his engagement. She checked her phone to call an Uber. 15 minutes away. $45 surge pricing. She didn't have it. She began to walk toward the main street, intending to catch a bus. The rain soaked through the thin black suit instantly. Her hair plastered to her face. She looked like a drowned rat. She reached the corner of Michigan Avenue, waiting for the light to change. Behind her, the heavy doors of the Drake Hotel opened. Music spilled out. Carter and Tiffany were leaving early, probably to go to a private after-party. Carter saw her standing on the corner, soaked and shivering. He paused under the hotel awning, dry and warm. He looked at her, then looked at his valet bringing around his Porsche. He didn't call out. He didn't offer her a ride. He opened the door for Tiffany, got in, and drove away. He didn't look back. Elena closed her eyes, letting the rain wash away the tears. "I hate you," she whispered to the taillights. Suddenly the sound of rain was replaced by the low hum of an engine. A car had pulled up right beside her. It wasn't a taxi. It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom, midnight blue, sleek as a panther. The back window rolled down silently. Elena stepped back, wary. A deep accented voice came from the darkness of the car. "It seems, Ms. Vance, that you are in need of a rescue, and I happen to be in need of an architect." Elena squinted into the car. The interior light flickered on. Sitting there was a man she recognized from the covers of Forbes and Fortune, Silas Thorne, the tech mogul, the recluse, the billionaire who had just bought the old Gothic bank building downtown that everyone said was haunted. He was arguably the most powerful man in Chicago, perhaps the country. He was looking at her with eyes that were terrifyingly intelligent. "Get in, Elena," Silas said. "The bus isn't coming, and frankly, you're ruining that suit." Elena looked at the empty street where Carter had vanished. Then she looked at the open door of the Rolls-Royce. She didn't ask how he knew her name. She didn't ask why he was there. She got in. The interior of the Rolls-Royce was an oasis of hushed opulence, a stark contrast to the angry, rain-swept street Elena had just fled. The air smelled faintly of leather and something citrusy and expensive. The hum of the engine was almost imperceptible. Elena sat on the plush leather seat, feeling the cold rain dripping from her hair onto the pristine carpet. She was acutely aware of her own disheveled state, her borrowed uniform, and the lingering sting of humiliation from the Drake. Silas Thorne watched her with an unnerving stillness. He was older than Carter, perhaps late 40s, but with an intensity that made Carter seem like a child. His silver hair was slicked back, revealing a high, intelligent forehead. His eyes, the color of glacial ice, missed nothing. He was wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than her Honda. "Are you quite comfortable, Ms. Vance?" he asked, his voice smooth like polished stone. He gestured to a small compartment. "There's a towel there if you wish to dry your hair, and perhaps a blanket. The climate control can be adjusted." Elena found the small folded linen towel and gently dabbed at her face and hair. She didn't trust herself to speak yet. Her mind was reeling. "Silas Thorne. Why me?" "You're wondering how I know your name," Silas said, anticipating her question. "And why I was lingering outside the Drake Hotel, seemingly waiting for a damsel in distress." Elena nodded, clutching the towel. "My driver Thomas was waiting for me. I had a brief meeting inside. As for knowing your name, I have a rather extensive network of contacts, Ms. Vance, and a keen interest in certain architectural projects in this city." He paused, letting his words hang in the air. "The former Grand Central Bank building on LaSalle Street. You're familiar with it?" Elena's eyes widened slightly. "The Thorne Tower project," she murmured. Everyone in Chicago knew about it. Silas Thorne had bought the iconic, decaying Gothic landmark 6 months ago, with the stated intention of converting it into his new tech company's headquarters, a project widely expected to redefine the city's skyline and potentially its tech landscape. It was an ambitious, near-impossible undertaking. "Indeed, the Thorne Tower," Silas confirmed. "A challenge. Most architects I've interviewed propose gutting the interior, destroying the historical integrity, simply to insert a modern glass shell. They lack imagination. They lack respect for the past." "It's a beautiful building," Elena found herself saying. "The vaults, the intricate stonework, the grand hall. It's a shame to lose any of it." Silas Thorne's lips quirked into a ghost of a smile. "Precisely. Which brings me to you." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze piercing. "My team, in their due diligence on local architectural talent, came across your portfolio, your work at Atherton Design. specifically your proposals for the old mill house renovation in Lake Geneva and the preservation work you spearheaded on the Water Tower Place historical facade project. Elena felt a spark, small but defiant, ignite within her. He knew her real work, not the pathetic drafting job she was doing now, not the unstable ex-wife narrative Carter had spun. "Your designs are bold, Ms. Vance," Silas continued, but also deeply respectful of existing structures. "You find harmony between the old and the new. You understand the soul of a building. That is a rare quality." "Thank you," Elena said, her voice surprisingly steady. "But I haven't worked on projects of that scale in a while. I am aware of your recent professional difficulties," Silas said, his eyes darkening slightly. "And your recent personal ones. Mr. Brooks is, shall we say, a rising star in his firm, and his fiancée's father, Mr. Ashford, is a formidable figure." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. He knew everything. He wasn't just observing, he was investigating. "So," Elena said, trying to regain some control. "You're offering me a job?" Silas chuckled, a low rumbling sound. "Not quite. I'm offering you a partnership. My current team lacks a visionary. They lack your vision. I want you to be the lead architect on the Thorn Tower project. Full creative control within the parameters of my ultimate approval, of course. A salary commensurate with that responsibility, and a significant share in the project's success." Elena stared at him, speechless. Lead architect on the Thorn Tower. It was a dream project, the kind of career-defining opportunity most architects spent their entire lives chasing. And he was offering it to her, the woman who had been humiliated less than an hour ago, standing in an alleyway contemplating a bus ride home. "Why me?" she finally managed to ask. "There are dozens of more established architects in Chicago." Silas Thorne's expression hardened, his eyes glinting. "Because, Ms. Vance, you were just publicly humiliated by a man who discarded you. You have a fire in your belly that those established architects, with their comfortable lives and their endless platitudes, simply do not possess. You understand what it means to be underestimated. You understand what it means to rebuild." He leaned back, gesturing to the gleaming city lights outside the tinted window. "I too have been underestimated. I too have been discarded by those who thought they were superior, and I too understand the sweet satisfaction of proving them all wrong. I am offering you the means to do just that. To build something monumental, something that will overshadow everything Mr. Brooks and his fiancée could ever hope to achieve. To reclaim your name, not just your career." Elena swallowed hard. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a proposition, a pact, a chance to not just survive, but to utterly transcend. It was a devil's bargain, perhaps, but the devil offering it held out a golden key. "What's the catch?" she asked, suspicion warring with a desperate hope. "The catch," Silas Thorne said, his smile returning cold and sharp, "is that you will work harder than you have ever worked in your life. You will push boundaries. You will innovate. You will bring this project to life. And in doing so, Miss Vance, you will become indispensable. To me, and to the world." He opened a small compartment, revealing a satellite phone. "Consider this a probationary period. For the next 3 months you will live at one of my properties. You will have full access to my resources. A dedicated team. Whatever you need to begin conceptualizing. If after 3 months you prove yourself, the partnership is yours. If not, we part ways, no hard feelings, and you walk away with a substantial severance." "Live at one of your properties?" Elena repeated, taken aback. "It's a design studio apartment above my private office downtown. Fully furnished, discreet. It will allow you to immerse yourself fully in the project without the distractions of your current situation," Silas explained. He pressed a button and a glass partition slid up, separating them from the driver. "Think of it as an incubator. Total focus." Elena looked out at the rain-streaked cityscape, then back at Silas Thorne. She thought of Carter's sneer, of Tiffany's cruel laugh, of the $25,000 check, of the crumbling studio apartment. This wasn't just a chance for a career, it was a chance for revenge, a chance for redemption. "I accept," Elena said the words firm and clear. Silas Thorne nodded, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. "Excellent. Thomas, take us to the Thorne penthouse, and inform my security detail that Ms. Vance is to be given full access." As the limo pulled away from the main thoroughfare, Elena looked out the back window. The Drake Hotel was a distant sparkle in the rain. She imagined Carter and Tiffany perhaps still reveling in their engagement, oblivious. The car turned down a quiet tree-lined street. Elena had entered a Billionaire's midnight limo, and as the dark vehicle swallowed her, she didn't look back. She didn't have to. The design studio apartment above his private office turned out to be a sprawling two-story penthouse occupying the top floors of one of Silas Thorne's smaller, more discreet corporate towers. It wasn't just an apartment, it was a sanctuary of minimalist luxury. The Rolls-Royce pulled into a private underground garage guarded by two silent, hulking men in dark suits. Elena was whisked through a private elevator directly to the penthouse. As the doors opened, Elena gasped. The space was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the glittering Chicago skyline, from the distant glow of Navy Pier to the towering majesty of the Sears Tower. The main living area was sparsely but elegantly furnished with neutral tones, sleek lines, and natural materials, dark wood-polished concrete, soft wool rugs. "Welcome, Ms. Vance," a woman's voice said. A petite, impeccably dressed woman in her early 50s with sharp, intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor stepped forward. "I am Eliza Thorne, Silas's executive assistant, and for the next 3 months I will be your primary point of contact for all logistical and administrative needs." Eliza gave Elena a polite but thorough once-over, her gaze lingering on Elena's damp, rumpled suit. "First order of business. A hot shower, clean clothes, and something warm to eat. Your suite is through that door. You'll find a walk-in wardrobe stocked with basics and a fresh change of clothes that should fit. Mr. Thorne has rather specific tastes in anticipating needs." Elena was led to a bedroom that was larger than her entire Logan Square apartment. The bed, a king-size, was covered in crisp white linens. The adjoining bathroom was a spa-like haven with a rain shower and a deep soaking tub. As promised, the walk-in wardrobe contained an array of high-quality basics: tailored black trousers, silk blouses, cashmere sweaters, and a few elegant dresses. Silas Thorne had indeed anticipated. Even her shoe size seemed to be accounted for. She shed the damp, humiliating suit and stepped into the shower, letting the hot water wash away, not just the rain, but the lingering residue of Carter's disdain. She emerged feeling lighter, cleaner, and strangely invigorated. Dressed in a soft silk robe from the wardrobe, Elena returned to the living area. A small, beautifully arranged meal waited on a low coffee table. Delicate sushi, fresh fruit, and a steaming cup of herbal tea. "Eliza mentioned you had some dietary preferences gleaned from your social media, Ms. Vance." Silas's voice came from behind her. He had changed into a more relaxed but equally expensive dark sweater and slacks. He sat on a minimalist sofa sipping from a glass of amber liquid. "This is incredibly thoughtful," Elena said, feeling a blush rise. "Efficiency, Ms. Vance, and anticipation," Silas replied. "You will find that those are 2 pillars of my organization. Now to business." He gestured to a large interactive holographic display that rose silently from a hidden compartment in the coffee table. The image of the old Grand Central Bank building, rendered in stunning detail, shimmered in the air above it. "This is our canvas," Silas said, his eyes alight with a fierce ambition. "The Thorne Tower. I want to build a legacy, Elena. Not just a building. A testament to innovation, to sustainability, to the power of the human spirit to transform the forgotten into the magnificent." Elena felt her heart pound. This was what she lived for. This was her passion buried under layers of rejection and compromise. I've studied every blueprint, every historical document available for this building. Silas continued gesturing to the holographic projection. It's a structural marvel, but it's also a labyrinth of challenges. The historical preservation committees will be a nightmare. The sheer scale of the internal redesign. The integration of cutting-edge technology into a Gothic shell. I understand, Elena said, stepping closer to the hologram, her mind already racing through possibilities. The key will be respecting the original intent of the architects Holabird and Roach while still creating a modern, functional, and awe-inspiring space. Precisely, Silas said, a rare, genuine smile gracing his lips. You truly do understand, Ms. Vance. We will need to create a new narrative for this building, a narrative that sings to the future but whispers of the past. He spent the next 2 hours outlining his vision in meticulous detail, but always deferring to her on the architectural and design possibilities. He spoke of smart glass that could change opacity at will, of vertical gardens, reaching towards the sky, of a data center integrated seamlessly into the old bank vaults of a public art installation within the Grand Hall that would draw tourists and locals alike. Elena found herself sketching furiously on a tablet. Eliza had provided ideas spilling out faster than she could capture them. She felt a surge of creative energy she hadn't experienced in years. It was intoxicating. As the clock neared 2 a.m., Silas finally leaned back. I believe that is enough for one night, Ms. Vance. Your schedule will be provided by Eliza in the morning. For now, rest. You have a monumental task ahead of you. Thank you, Mr. Thorne, Elena said genuinely. For this opportunity. Opportunity, yes, Silas said, his eyes narrowing slightly. But remember, Ms. Vance, it is also a crucible. You will be tested, and when you emerge, you will be forged anew. He stood the perfect gentleman. Good night, Elena. He left her alone in the vast penthouse. Elena walked to the window, looking out at the city. She could see the faint outline of the building where she used to live with Carter. It was just a tiny speck in the sprawling urban tapestry. Here in this golden cage with Silas Thorne's ambition as her guide, she wasn't just building a skyscraper. She was building herself. She was rebuilding her name. And she knew with a certainty that chilled her to the bone that Carter Brooks would soon realize exactly what he had lost. The game had just begun. Chicago was sweltering under an August heat wave, but inside the temporary command center at the Thorne Tower site, the air was crisp and electric with tension. Elena Vance stood before a wall of monitors, her eyes scanning the complex 3D renderings of the Grand Hall. She looked different. The woman who had stood shivering in the rain 3 months ago was gone. In her place was a creature of precision and power. Her hair was now cut into a sharp, asymmetrical bob that framed her face like a helmet of glossy silk. She wore a tailored cream pantsuit from the Row, the kind of understated luxury that screamed authority without whispering a word. The load-bearing calculations for the glass atrium are still off by 0.05%. Elena said, her voice cutting through the murmur of the engineering team. If we don't adjust the truss tension, the winter winds off Lake Michigan will shatter those panels within 3 seasons. Fix it. I want the new specs by 4 p.m. Yes, Ms. Vance, the lead engineer. A man 20 years her senior nodded respectfully and scrambled to his workstation. Elena turned to see Silas Thorne watching her from the doorway of the glass-walled office. He was leaning against the frame arms, crossed, a look of unreadable calculation on his face. Over the last 90 days, Elena had ceased to be a guest and had become a force of nature. She worked 18-hour days. She ate while reviewing blueprints. She slept in 4-hour bursts. She had taken Silas's challenge to innovate or leave and turned it into a crusade. You run a tight ship, Elena, Silas said, walking over to the central table where a physical model of the tower stood. The zoning committee is terrified of you. I heard you made Councilman Higgins sweat through his suit during the hearing yesterday. Higgins wanted to block the solar skin integration because he thought it would disrupt the historic skyline, Elena replied, picking up a stylus. I reminded him that the original 1920s design included a copper spire that was never built due to the Depression. Our solar skin is simply fulfilling history's promise. Legally, he had no leg to stand on. Silas laughed, a sound that had become more frequent in the penthouse these past few weeks. Brilliant. You're not just an architect, Elena. You're a strategist. Which is good because the real test is coming. He tapped the table. The Blackwood Investment Group is wavering. They're the primary backers for the commercial retail space on the lower levels. If they pull out, the project enters a financial gray zone. We need to dazzle them. I know, Elena said, her jaw tightening. That's why the unveiling gala next Saturday is crucial. The gala. It was being billed as the social event of the decade. The rebirth of Chicago, the invitations read. Silas had invited the city's top 300 power players, politicians, investors, celebrities, and the legal elite, including the partners at Sterling and O'Connell. Elena felt a cold knot in her stomach. She knew Carter would be there. She had checked the RSVP list herself. Carter Brooks plus guest. The guest undoubtedly was Tiffany Ashford. Are you ready for them? Silas asked, his voice dropping an octave. He wasn't talking about the investors. Elena looked up from the model. Her amber eyes were hard. I'm not the same woman who left the Drake in a soaking wet uniform, Silas. Carter Brooks is just a name on a guest list. A guest who is going to watch me succeed. Good, Silas said, because I have a surprise for you, for the gala. He snapped his fingers and Eliza, his assistant, entered carrying a large flat box wrapped in black velvet. You are the lead architect of the Thorn Tower, Silas said. You are the face of this project. You cannot just attend, you must ascend. Elena opened the box. Inside lay a dress that stole the breath from her lungs. It was custom Versace, a structural masterpiece of midnight blue silk and architectural pleating that looked like it was made of liquid sapphire. It was bold, regal, and undeniably sexy. Silas, this is armor, Silas corrected gently. Wear it. And when you walk onto that stage to present the design, make sure they don't just see a building. Make sure they see you. Meanwhile, across town, the atmosphere was far less triumphant. In the high-rise condo Carter now shared with Tiffany, the mood was toxic. I don't understand why we have to go to this stupid Thorn event, Tiffany whined, throwing a $5,000 purse onto the sofa. It's a construction site, Carter. It's going to be dusty and full of boring tech nerds. Carter Brooks rubbed his temples. He looked tired. The strategy of marrying Tiffany was proving to be exhausting. She was demanding, vacuous, and had a spending habit that even his new partner's salary couldn't quite sustain. We have to go because Silas Thorn is the biggest client in the Midwest right now, Tiffany, Carter snapped, losing his patience. And because my firm is trying to land the retainer for his corporate legal work. If I can get FaceTime with Thorn, I can secure my senior partner track. Oh, fine, Tiffany rolled her eyes. But I need a new dress. And I heard there's some mystery architect everyone is buzzing about. Probably some pretentious European guy with a turtleneck. I bet the building is ugly. Carter walked to the window looking out at the city. He felt a strange unease. He hadn't heard from Elena in months. He assumed she had moved back to Wisconsin defeated. He tried to push the memory of her eyes at the Drake Hotel out of his mind. Just be ready by 7:00 p.m. Tiff, Carter muttered. And please, try to be charming. My career depends on this. Your career always depends on something, she scoffed, walking out of the room. Carter sighed. He missed the quiet evenings with Elena. He missed the way she would listen to him vent about his day, offering actual advice instead of complaints. He shook his head. No, I made the right choice. Elena was the past. Tiffany is the future. He didn't realize that the future was waiting for him in a midnight blue dress and it was holding a sledgehammer. The transformation was miraculous. The construction crew, under Elena's relentless direction, had cleared the main floor of the Grand Central Bank building. The raw steel beams were draped in sheer white fabric lit from below by amber LEDs, that gave the cavernous space a warm, ethereal glow. The dust was gone, replaced by the scent of white lilies and expensive champagne. A jazz quartet played softly in the corner as Chicago's elite filed in. Men in tuxedos and women in couture gowns mingled their voices, echoing off the high vaulted ceilings that Elena had fought so hard to preserve. Carter Brooks adjusted his bow tie, scanning the room. He had Tiffany on his arm, dressed in a loud neon pink gown that clashed violently with the elegant atmosphere. She was already complaining about the champagne not being chilled enough. "Keep it down," Carter hissed through a smile, nodding at a judge he recognized. "There's Thorne." Silas Thorne stood near the center stage, surrounded by a phalanx of investors. He looked imperious, a king holding court. Carter maneuvered Tiffany through the crowd, determined to make his move. "Mr. Thorne," he called out, extending a hand as he broke the circle. "Carter, Brooks, Sterling, and O'Connell. Fantastic turnout." Silas turned slowly. His ice-blue eyes landed on Carter with a flicker of recognition that was entirely devoid of warmth. "Mr. Brooks," Silas said, his voice smooth but distant, "I believe my legal team has already declined your firm's proposal." Carter's smile faltered. "Well, yes, formally. But I thought perhaps a face-to-face discussion about the intricacies of zoning law." "I have all the counsel I need, Mr. Brooks." Silas cut him off. "In fact, my lead architect handles most of the zoning battles herself. She has a rather intimate knowledge of how to dismantle weak arguments." Tiffany piped up, looking bored. "So the mystery genius is a woman. Let me guess, she designs cozy spaces." Silas's eyes slid to Tiffany, sharp as razors. "She designs empires, Ms. Ashford. And if you'll excuse me, it's time for the presentation." The lights in the grand hall dimmed suddenly. A hush fell over the crowd. A spotlight hit the center stage. A massive holographic projection appeared in the air, a rotating, shimmering model of the finished Thorne Tower. It was breathtaking. A fusion of the heavy stone Gothic base rising into a crystalline solar-skinned spire that looked like it was piercing the heavens. It was aggressive, beautiful, and undeniably brilliant. "Ladies and gentlemen," Silas's voice boomed over the speakers. "They told me this building was dead. They told me the past could not be reconciled with the future. They were wrong. I present to you the vision, and the visionary." He swept his hand toward the top of the grand staircase. "The lead architect of Thorne Enterprises, Ms. Elena Vance." The spotlight swung to the top of the stairs. There she stood. The silence that followed was absolute. Elena Vance, draped in the midnight blue Versace gown, looked like a goddess of war. Her dark hair gleamed. Her posture was regal. She looked down at the crowd of 300 people with a cool, serene expression. Carter Brooks dropped his champagne flute. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing in the silence. "Elena?" he choked out. Tiffany's jaw dropped. "The waitress!" she screeched too loudly. "That's the waitress!" Elena began to descend the stairs. She didn't look at her feet. She looked straight ahead. Every step was a statement. The crowd parted for her as she reached the stage. She walked up to the podium, gripping the sides with confident hands. "Good evening," she said into the microphone. Her voice was rich, steady, and amplified to fill the hall. 6 months ago, this building was a ruin. It was discarded. People looked at its broken windows and water-damaged floors and saw a teardown. They saw something that had served its purpose and should be replaced by something newer, something easier. Her eyes scanned the front row, locking directly onto Carter's pale face. "But true value," Elena continued, "isn't about what is new. It's about the foundation. It's about resilience. We didn't tear this building down. We stripped away the rot. We reinforced the steel. And now it stands stronger than it ever was before." She pressed a button, and the hologram shifted to show the interior designs, spaces that were innovative, human-centric, and stunningly beautiful. "The Thorne Tower will be the heart of Chicago's new tech district," Elena announced. And I am proud to announce that as of this morning we have secured full city approval and the exclusive partnership of the Blackwood Investment Group." Thunderous applause broke out. The investors were beaming. The press was snapping photos frantically. Elena stepped back from the podium, Silas moving to her side, placing a possessive, proud hand on the small of her back. Carter stood frozen, his world tilting on its axis. This was his ex-wife, the woman he left crying in a kitchen. She wasn't just successful, she was the most powerful person in the room. She was radiant. "I need to talk to her," Carter muttered, pushing past a confused Tiffany. "Carter, don't you dare!" Tiffany grabbed his arm. "Let go." He shook her off and surged toward the stage as the presentation ended and the music swelled again. Elena was surrounded by admirers, accepting handshakes and compliments with practiced grace. Carter elbowed his way through. "Elena?" he called out, breathless. She turned. The circle of people quieted, sensing the drama. Elena looked at him. Up close, she was even more stunning, and colder. "Hello, Carter," she said. Her tone was polite, indifferent, like she was greeting a distant cousin she didn't particularly like. "Elena, my God," Carter stammered. "You did this, all of this." "I did," she said. "It's amazing what a woman can do when she's not spending all her energy supporting a man who doesn't appreciate her." A few people nearby chuckled. Carter's face flushed red. "Look, we need to talk." He lowered his voice, trying to be intimate. "I made a mistake, Elena. A huge mistake. Tiffany, she's not you. She doesn't get me. Seeing you up there, I realized I walked away from the best thing I ever had." It was the speech she had dreamed of hearing for months, the apology, the regret. But now that it was here, she felt nothing, no triumph, no anger, just a mild pity. "You didn't make a mistake, Carter," Elena said loud enough for Silas and the nearby investors to hear. "You made a choice. You chose a strategy over a partnership. You chose easy over real." She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper that only he could hear. "And honestly, I should thank you. If you hadn't broken my heart, I never would have found my ambition. You didn't destroy me, Carter. You liberated me." "Elena, please." He reached for her hand. "I can fix this. We can fix this." Before Elena could pull away, Silas Thorne stepped in. He didn't shove Carter. He didn't have to. He simply occupied the space between them, a wall of tailored wool and immense power. "I believe," Silas said, his voice like grinding gravel, "that Ms. Vance is finished with this conversation, and you, Mr. Brooks, are trespassing." "I'm a guest." Carter bristled, trying to salvage his dignity. "You were a guest," Silas corrected. "Now you are a disturbance. Security will escort you and Ms. Ashford out." Two large men materialized instantly at Carter's elbows. "You can't do this," Carter shouted as they gripped his arms. "Elena, tell them." Elena looked at him one last time. She raised her champagne glass in a mock toast. "Goodbye, Carter. Good luck with the merger," she said. As Carter was dragged away protesting with a humiliated Tiffany trailing behind him screaming about suing everyone, the room burst into chatter. Elena turned to Silas. Her hand was trembling slightly, but her smile was real. "Are you all right?" Silas asked, his eyes searching hers. "I'm fine," Elena said, taking a deep breath. "Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm ready to get back to work. We have a tower to build." Silas smiled, offering her his arm. "Then let's build it." But as they turned to leave the stage, a flash of camera lights from the entrance caught their attention. A new figure had entered, a man with gray hair and a face known to every lawyer in the city. It was Marcus Ashford, the managing partner of Sterling and O'Connell, Tiffany's father. And he didn't look happy. But he wasn't looking at Carter. He was looking at Silas Thorne, with a look of recognition that suggested this game was far older and far more dangerous than Elena realized. The romantic revenge was over. The corporate war was just beginning. The euphoria of the gala evaporated the moment the morning papers hit the marble island of the penthouse. The headline wasn't about Elena's triumph. It was about the war. Ashford legal files. Injunction to halt Thorn Tower. Silas paced the living room, his face dark. "It's Marcus Ashford's signature move," he growled. "He's dug up a 1930 Sacred Light ordinance claiming our tower casts an illegal shadow on St. Jude's Cathedral. He doesn't need to win. He just needs to get a stop-work order. If construction pauses for litigation, the investors walk. The project dies." Elena scanned the legal brief. Her eyes narrowed. "He thinks he's fighting a developer," she said, grabbing her coat. "He forgets he's fighting an architect. I know the bones of this city better than he knows the law. Get me a hearing with the zoning board, now." The emergency session at City Hall was suffocating. Marcus Ashford sat at the head of the table, radiating smugness. Beside him sat Carter Brooks, looking pale and hollow, a pawn paraded out to rattle his ex-wife. "The ordinance is clear," Ashford droned, tapping a leather folder. "The Thorn Tower violates the cathedral's solar access. You must lower the structure by 20 stories. Cutting 20 stories would destroy the solar integration. It was a death sentence for the building." "Mr. Brooks," Ashford sneered, turning to Carter. "As a property attorney, do you concur?" Carter couldn't meet Elena's eyes. The precedent stands," he mumbled, his voice shaking. Elena stood up. She didn't look at the lawyers. She looked at the projector. "You're relying on the 1930 ordinance protecting the church's light," she stated clearly. "But you didn't check the archives from 1954. She clicked a button. A yellow document appeared on the screen. "In 1954, St. Jude's needed a new roof. To pay for it, they sold their air rights to the city. It was misfiled under sanitation for decades. I found it 3 weeks ago." Elena slammed a fresh document onto the table. "The church has no claim to that light. The city owns it. And as of this morning, the city has leased those rights exclusively to Thorn Enterprises." The room went silent. Ashford turned a violent shade of purple. "This is a trick." "It's public record," Silas said, his voice ringing with victory. "You were just too arrogant to look in the basement." The board chairman banged his gavel. "Injunction denied. The project proceeds." Ashford stormed out, his team scrambling behind him. Carter remained seated, looking like a ghost. Elena approached him. There was no anger left, only a distant pity. "Tiffany left me," Carter whispered, staring at his hands. "She saw the headlines. Said she couldn't be with a loser." "I lost everything, Elena." "You didn't lose everything, Carter," Elena said softly. "You gave it away. You chose a strategy over a partner. Now you have neither." She turned her back on him and walked out with Silas, leaving her ex-husband alone in the empty room. 1 year later. The finished Thorn Tower pierced the night sky, a lance of sapphire light that redefined the Chicago skyline. On the 90th floor observation deck, Elena Vance stood in a white suit that glowed against the stars. The wind whipped her hair, but she felt anchored for the first time in her life. "The partnership agreement expires today," Silas said, stepping up beside her. He didn't hold a contract. He held a small velvet box. "I don't want to renew the partnership, Elena," he said, opening the box to reveal a ring. A rare, uncut sapphire set in a band of twisted platinum mimicking the tower's steel structure. "I want a merger, a permanent one. I love you, Elena. Will you build a life with me?" Elena smiled, tears pricking her eyes. "Only if I get full creative control," she teased. "You already have it," Silas whispered, and he kissed her. Far below, on the cold pavement, a man in a cheap suit paused outside a subway station. Carter Brooks adjusted his name tag, Night Manager Hertz Rental, and looked up. He watched the light of the penthouse pulse against the darkness, a star he could no longer reach. He looked for a long moment, then turned up his collar against the wind and descended into the underground. He didn't look back. But high above the clouds, Elena Thorne was looking at the horizon, and the view was magnificent. And that is the story of Elena Vance. She taught us that sometimes the person who leaves you is doing you the greatest favor of your life. Carter walked away and didn't look back, but he didn't realize that he wasn't leaving her behind. He was setting her free. Elena didn't just find a billionaire. She found herself. She turned her heartbreak into an empire. What would you do if you were standing on that rainy corner? Would you get in the car? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of revenge, redemption, and success, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story. We have a new saga coming next week involving a runaway bride and a secret prince, and you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and remember, your value isn't determined by who leaves you, but by what you build after they're gone.